Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Well, that is right, my friends. You have tuned in here to America's home for conservative, not bitter talk. I'm your host, Todd Huff. My pleasure to be with you today, my friends. I want to hammer home this point, and I want to get to other things as well. I want to continue hammering home the point of just how much we were lied to. And we are continually being lied to by the media. Everything that Trump says about the media, I can never say everything, but in general, I can think of no example that this doesn't apply to at the moment. But what Trump has said about the media regarding their duplicitous nature, regarding their desire to engage in fake news reporting, all of this has been validated time and time again. My friends, it's there for anybody who wants to see this. These folks need to be held accountable. There needs to be a house cleaning, not just in the deep state, within the deep media as well. Boy, that's a term that just came to me on the fly. The deep media. I think I like that. Deep media, which is engaged in doing the same thing that the deep state is engaged in doing, except they're doing it within their particular pillar of our culture, the media. So the deep state is there to undermine the Trump administration, the conservative movement, Republican legislators, and, well, I guess legislatures as well. They're there to push the liberal leftist agenda down the throats of the American people through the tools that they have at their disposal, which include, well, insubordination, which isn't a real tool, but they have the power because they're the ones that are supposed to be enacting, putting feet to the policy, so to speak. And the same goes true with the media. They have information. Both of these things are dangerous, but we've got the deep state and we've got the deep media that need to be stopped. I've got a montage here that I want to play for you. It's a couple minutes of people like Joe Scarborough telling us just how great Biden was. And now they're trying to, I guess, erase that history or say that they were the ones that were misled. They, my friends, are either completely incompetent, completely uncurious, or part of the problem, actual, active, professional deceivers, which is what I think is that they're all those things. But I believe that they are professional deceivers. We'll get to that. Well, also there's a story while I'm thinking about it, because I do want to get to this. And this is an older story that continues to have new developments. And there is a place near Mount Ararat in Turkey where for some time now, people have believed that, and some people don't believe it. It's interesting to me, and I just want to share it because I think, I don't know. I have no idea about whether this is a naturally occurring formation or if there's something else going on here. But there's what many people have said is Noah's Ark found in the 19 miles, I think it is, from Mount Ararat, which is in the vicinity, in the area of where the Bible says that the ark came to rest. Now, that doesn't mean the ark stayed there. I mean, any number of things could have happened. I'm not saying that this is the ark, but there's been some ground radar that has discovered some things about this. I just want to share it because it's interesting to me, and it's relevant. I think it's certainly relevant. So that's what I want to get to today. Friends, last call for lifetime membership to the conservative, to the inner circle, I should say. Our membership program that we're going to be launching here soon. Lifetime membership, $99. You're in for life. Last call to be a founding member of the inner circle and have access to all the things that we're going to do, which includes exclusive content, behind-the-scenes stuff, video chats, all sorts of things that we're going to be doing there. And you'll even get a personal welcome call from me if you sign up to become a member of the Inner Circle. You can do that or get more information by going to toddhuffshow.com/join. Again, that's toddhuffshow.com/join for more information to sign up to become a lifetime member. This expires tomorrow. This expires, I should say, Friday, because I don't know when you're listening to what I say, especially if you have listened on a podcast. This expires at the end of the day on Friday, May the 16th, 2025. So it's your last chance, $99 to be a lifetime member, toddhuffshow.com/join. Again, toddhuffshow.com/join. All right. All that being said, let's get to this. This is a montage of people in the media, people who are Democrats, who were telling us back in the day that Biden was fine. This is different from the one I played yesterday. And now they pretend that they're not part of the problem. Now they pretend that they didn't say the things that they said. Now they want to blame somebody else. Now they want to say, well, it was Biden's physical. We didn't realize how bad he was physically. We didn't realize he was shuffling his feet and he just didn't have his, wasn't out there playing basketball with Obama sort of thing. So that's what they want you to think now, even though they were part of this. I'm going to play this for you. This is a couple of minutes. I'm probably going to stop it and chime in at some point, but here you go.
Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth.
Okay.
And F you if you can't handle the truth.
Tough guy.
He's sharp, he's focused, he's bright.
I don't have any concerns, and that's from personal interactions.
This version of Biden is the best Biden ever. Not a close second.
Not a close
sound.
There's a Miller.
I mean, the Republicans
Jasmine
are
Crockett.
like good at distractions.
I think you have absolutely no standing to
Jake Tapper.
diagnose somebody's cognitive decline.
And if the Democrats were honest, they'd admit President Biden's mental capacity is declining. 6 in 10 Americans don't have confidence in Joe Biden's mental capacity.
Then you have the liberal media told bad things about me and members of the oversight committee because we have the audacity to investigate.
James Comer.
Giving us their drive-by diagnoses of the President of the United States.
Congressman, what you are suggesting is that I omit portions of my reasoning and explanation to the Attorney General for political reasons.
Democrats get into a frenzy.
Do you think people close to President Biden are being honest about his mental state?
And these slip-ups kind of happen.
I mean, there should be no concern.
So I don't really care if he was off for 90 minutes and didn't put on like people wanted him to put on.
I saw no more in his declaration than I've seen in anybody else.
Sharper than anyone I've spoken to.
This is a very sharp president.
Incredibly sharp, incredibly probing.
He is sharp. He is on top of things.
The president has no impairment.
Nobody's buying that.
That was I got to pause this. That was Merrick Garland. So they're all this halfway through this thing. President's quick. He's done it. The best version of Biden ever. That's what Joe Scarborough said. The best version of Biden ever. He should resign. He should close up shop. He should say, you know what? What I said about President Biden, given honestly what I knew then, this should be what Joe Scarborough says. It was so ridiculous that when I hear it played back to myself now, I know that I'm not fit for the position that I have here at MSNBC as a make-believe journalist, as a shill for the Democrat Party and the left. I can't do it anymore. I can't look myself in the mirror. And as Joe Scarborough, he should just hang it up. That's what he should do. And if he had any self-respect, folks, this is not just making a statement that you're wrong about, making a prediction, right? There are things that you probably don't disagree with many things, but you disagree with some things with me. And sometimes I'll be right, and sometimes you'll be right, and sometimes it's maybe hard to tell. Maybe we're both wrong. That's a possibility too. It's very unlikely that if you side with me that you'll be wrong. I'm kidding, but you get the idea. But I understand that there are things that we're wrong about. We can make judgments, and reasonable people can come to different conclusions, but not on everything. Not on everything. If the building's on fire and there are two people that are in the building, and one says, let's get out of here, and the other one says, let's hang out here for a bit. There is no circumstance in which the person who says, let's hang out here, is right. Right? There are certain things that there's not alternative reasonable positions on. Some things are so basic and common sense and obvious that there's really no other viewpoint. And I'm not even saying most things, but there are certainly things that there's no discussion about. We react because it's the right thing to do, especially in a crisis situation. And we were in a crisis, with a crisis of leadership in this country. And people like Joe Scarborough and people like these politicians and people in the cabinet like Alejandro Mayorkas or Merrick Garland or Jasmine Crockett, or take your pick. I've played Nancy Pelosi, Karine Jean-Pierre. Those are just some of the people that have been in this clip, this montage, telling us how great Joe Biden was. And he clearly wasn't. He was clearly 100% incapable of doing the job. And this is what, and I said this at the time, this is how they do it. See, they've learned that the bigger the lie, it's almost easier to defend. And what I mean by that is, if they say, well, he isn't what he was 5 years ago, then they're giving you a little bit of crack, a little bit of kink, a little crack in the armor. And that's something that you can begin to probe into. And, it's a weakness in the defense. So instead of saying that, they're going to say, what are you talking about? This, not only is this guy, is there nothing to see here, this guy's better than he was 5 years ago. This is the best version of this guy. So instead of giving you a little kink in the armor, what they do is they solidify it. They cover it up. They defend it even stronger. They refuse to give you even the slightest inch, the slightest acknowledgement that what you're saying is true. That's what's happening here. That's what Joe Scarborough did. He knew it at the time. I mean, the options are obvious. He either knew it and he's part of the problem. He didn't know it and he's incompetent as a journalist. Either way, why do people listen to this? There are some things that you should lose your ability to earn people's trust on. And this is clearly one of those things. The montage continues here.
Nobody's buying what he's selling.
And the pipeline of videos that aren't telling the full truth.
All this right-wing propaganda that his mental acuity has declined is wrong.
The same right-wing influences that are trying to take me down are trying to take down President Biden.
Of course. Joe Biden's not the one calling the shots.
And let's look at President Biden.
People see he's not. Nobody suggests he's senile, and that's disrespectful of senior people with any kind of memory disability.
We're all aware of how he's doing.
President of Mexico, Sisi. We finally beat Medicare.
Sometimes he would say things he didn't want to say. You know what? I don't really care.
I'm serious.
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
President Biden's decline.
Here we go.
And it's covered.
Now this is Alex Thompson. This is at that, whatever the stupid correspondence dinner was here, maybe a month ago. Alex Thompson, who's the co-author of this stupid book with Jake Tapper. Now this is what they're saying. In fact, I'll back this up a few seconds so that we can capture this.
He knows what he said either.
President Biden's decline and its cover-up by the people around him.
Cover-up is a very loaded term.
I don't think that there is a huge cover-up underway here.
If anybody out there gives a damn about the truth, read that interview.
Original Sin. It's about President Biden's disastrous decision to run for re-election and the cover-up of his decline.
We missed a lot of this
Alex
story.
Thompson.
And I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline, the cover-up of his decline.
We missed a lot of this story.
If it weren't the truth, I wouldn't say it.
And they say I'm in good shape. Okay?
That's Biden at the end there. It's just insulting. And what's all this talk? Jake Tapper had Laura Trump on. In fact, you heard Laura, he wouldn't let her finish. He wouldn't let her explain what she meant when she questioned Biden's cognitive abilities. You're not qualified. You're not a doctor, right? It reminds me when Ketanji Brown, the Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson was asked about in her confirmation hearing. She was asked something about what is a woman, and she made some comment. She's not a biologist. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You ask children what a woman is. Maybe they can't put it into words, but very young children could go and point out the women in a room, and then you say, where are the men? And they point out the men as well. They may not be able to verbalize it, but they understand. But these are the games that they play with us, and this is considered sophisticated and intelligent and very progressive and very wise and smart and just so important to our culture, our society, and our government. These people are tearing it apart at the seams. This guy Biden was completely incompetent. He was breaking down left and right. He had no idea where he was, what he was saying. Remember the story that Speaker Mike Johnson shared it was sometime after the election, and of course, Trump's in the White House. I think Trump was in the White House. If he wasn't, Biden was on his way out, and Mike Johnson said he had a meeting with the president, and he questioned one of the pieces of legislation or executive order that Biden had signed, and Biden said, well, that's not what it was, and Mike Johnson said, Mr. President, that is exactly what it was. And he said, I had concerns that he even knew what he was signing. Of course, now they have the auto pen that we're learning about that's been programmed to sign things that Biden may have never known about. Even if he knew about it, did he know about it? Even if he knew about it, did he understand it? These folks in the media were part of this. These folks in the Democrat Party were a part of this. Alejandro Mayorkas was a part of this. Merrick Garland, who we were told was the most unpartisan, fairest, best person possible to be a Supreme Court justice, the most just middle-of-the-road, reasonable human being. That's what we were told. That's who we were told he was. That's what we were, told he was supposed to be and do and all this sort of stuff. But of course, my friends, that's just simply not the case. They've lied to us repeatedly, incessantly, gaslighting us left and right. It's unbelievable who these people are, and they should be held accountable. And that's why I want to go through this. The more I talk about this, the more it stirs up memories of other things that they've done. This is not accidental. This is intentional. This isn't just, it is that they don't have respect for the American people, but it's not just that. It's that they can't be trusted. They have completely violated our trust. We should not trust a word that these jokers and clowns say. Not a word. And if you can't trust them, then they should have absolutely no power. 0% power is what they should have. Because why would you grant power to people that you don't trust? This is a mess, my friends. This country is in a mess, and we've gone through proverbial hell here, in large part because of the people that have been running the show. In large part because of the people who have been hiding the things that the people running the show have been doing, which involves people like Joe Scarborough. With this, at least with this particular example, I mean, the evidence is right there for anyone to see. So I want to talk about other things today as well. So that's where I want to stop this conversation with where we've been taken. And now, with the books and the cover-up, and it was a cover-up, by the way. It was a cover-up because they wanted Biden to win the election. They feared Trump. It's not so much that they were on Biden's side. These folks are like vultures. They don't care. Now that Biden's usefulness to them is up, they're not going to defend the guy. They're going to throw him under the metaphorical bus. They're going to say he's to blame and maybe some of his inner circle people, but this is not genuine and true. They're going to have to eventually admit that they were just, I guess, incompetent. That's where they're going to have to settle. We had no idea. He was both physically and mentally unfit to serve as commander-in-chief, president of the United States. That's where they're going to have to end this thing, but they're going to try to avoid admitting that he was mentally incapable. They don't want to admit that. But we need to push back. We need to expose these folks for who they are. This stuff is it's dangerous. Having political ideas that are different, I mean, look, you can have some really bad political ideas. But if you get there based upon real information and a real understanding of the issue, which I don't know how you do, but at least that's understandable. But if you get there because you've been buying into a narrative that Trump is the devil incarnate, Hitler 2.0, and that Biden was fit for office, my friends, you were used by these people. And it's hard to admit. It's easier to believe anything else than to believe if you voted for Biden under those conditions, you were misled. It's easier to lash out, to blame somebody else, to say that people like talk radio, people like me, people like Trump, whoever, are trying to rewrite history or anything like that. It's easier to say that than to say that you were fooled, right? That you had the wool pulled over your eyes. But that's precisely what happened. Now, some people are just, they've sold out to the cause of the left. Some people are just fueled by anger and rage and hatred for Trump. Some people were fooled by this stuff. Some people thought that raising questions about his fitness was an attack on the elderly, which is crazy. I've got an 88-year-old grandmother who is completely with it, still mows her own grass and everything, still makes dinners for the holidays. Love her with all my heart. She's totally fine. I mean, she's aging, but she's not, this is not an assault on her at all. This is an assault on, not even an assault, this is realizing and recognizing and trying to point out the dangers of pretending like there is no problem when we were being led by the previous administration. So that's all I care to say about this. Friends, if you're in sales, listen up. This is important. Let me ask you this. How would it change your life? Because it would change your life if you doubled your sales. Think about that for just a second. More deals, bigger commissions, less stress. It's exactly what Matt Easton and Easton University can help you achieve. Matt's system is designed to transform your sales career, my friends, and he's got the tools and the chops to do it. In fact, if you sign up through our website, he'll even jump on a call personally with you to help you get started. This is not just a sales training program, though it is. But there's coaching as well. It's a proven path to success. But you, my friends, you, the salesperson, the entrepreneur, the sales manager, you have to take the first step. That first step is going to toddhuffshow.com/Easton, EASTON, toddhuffshow.com/Easton. Do that now to claim your personal call with Matt Easton. If you sign up and become a student there of Easton University, again, toddhuffshow.com/Easton. That's where you go. Do not let another opportunity slip through your hands. Your future starts today, toddhuffshow.com/Easton. Got to take a break here, my friends. Quick time out. Back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. I referenced this at the top of the program, and I want to talk about this, at least for this segment. We'll see where this goes. But I find this interesting. You know that if you listen to this program, I'm a conservative, meaning that I believe in the Constitution of the United States of America. I believe that this is it's a constitutional republic. Certainly has democratic aspects, the consent of the governed. We as a people have gotten together and said, hey, government, here are the things that we are allowing you to have control of. We've set some really tight parameters in the Constitution. That's what you're supposed to be doing. You don't tell us what to do. We tell you what you can do. I believe that our rights, our freedoms, our liberties come ultimately from Almighty God, our Creator. He's the one that grants and bestows those upon us. The government does not. If the government does, the government can take away. The government does not. It's not given to us by man. Now, our government can choose to, accept that truth or not. They can try to erode those and take those away, but it's not theirs to control. It's only theirs to control if we let them. But, even then, we still have the freedoms. We're just choosing not to exercise them or stand up for them. Regardless, that's, and as a conservative, I believe in a limited government. The one end of the spectrum is the far left. You've got totalitarianism. This is my political spectrum, how I think of it. On the other end of the spectrum, you've got complete anarchy. People realize that we need some order. We need to be able to, protect ourselves from foreign adversaries and threats. We need to have we need to have justice in a country. And so we need a government. It can't be complete anarchy and chaos. There have to be some laws and rules. Doesn't mean there has to be a lot. We want the fewest required to have a functioning society. That's basically what it means to be a conservative. At least in my version of it, how I think of it. So I'm a conservative. I'm also a Christian. Now, what does that mean? Christian means that I'm a follower of Jesus. Christianity isn't so much my religion, although that's how it's often referred to in the common vernacular. Christianity, in the way that I mean it, and I think the way that the Bible means it, is that I have a relationship with the creator of the universe through his son, Jesus Christ. He's the one who came to reconcile all of us. Look, I'm not special. This can happen for anybody who's listening to my voice. I didn't earn this. I'm not part of an exclusive group. I am simply someone who has been created in the image of God, that God has reached out to, and I have accepted his offer of reconciliation, for which I did nothing. I did absolutely nothing. It is by grace you have been saved through faith. This is not of yourselves. This is the gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast, what the Bible tells us. But regardless here, I'm a believer. I believe the Bible. I believe the Bible to be true. Now you have to understand there's different types of books in the Bible. There's historical books. There's prophetical books. There's books of poetry. Not everything is meant to be literal. For example, Jesus taught in parables. Not all of those stories aren't meant to say that literally happened. Those stories point to teach us a truth. Jesus says if your right eye causes you to sin, it's better to gouge it out than to spend eternity in hell separated from God. Doesn't mean that we should literally be gouging our eyes out. He's painting a picture. So, it's all true, but you have to understand which lens to look at it through, right? So, but that's important for me to understand. But God gave us a story of how he has worked with humanity, how he's endured our rebellion, and how he continued to, through the Old Testament all the way through the New Testament in the Bible, sought to reconcile us unto him, to sanctify us, to make us holy again, not by our own works, but through his son Jesus. We're all in the process of being made, of being sanctified, of being made more like him, basically. So that's what I believe, and so that's the angle that I'm looking at this. So I look at this, I see this. I've seen this story for a long time. People think that the ark, Noah's ark, is in the mountains of Ararat, 19 miles, in fact, away from Mount Ararat in Turkey. So headline here, this has been out there for a while, but there's been new discoveries. This just posted here May 13th. So this is just a couple of days ago. Bombshell discovery at site of Noah's ark, which researchers say could prove the biblical story to be true. Now, I want to say, I did a Todd Talk the other day. I was talking about Joe Rogan had a guest on. They were talking about the Big Bang, and he was comparing and contrasting that. Well, they were talking about the size and scope of the universe. Rogan said, I'm on Jesus' side with this. It's easier to believe the story of Jesus, his life, death, resurrection, than it is to believe the Big Bang. And it's a 60-second thing, right? You can't get into the details of everything. There's nuance and there's context to pull from that. But in general, some people who are Christians will say, yeah, that's how God created through the Big Bang, right? That's what the creation looked like. Okay, fine. But what I look at it from another perspective, which says the reason that people on the left, people who are don't believe in God or want to give excuses or just whatever to say that there's not a creator, forget about specifically the God of the Bible, but that there is a creator, that's why they followed this belief that there was a Big Bang because they believe it's not necessary for a creator, which is preposterous. It's preposterous even if, I'm not saying that that's how creation happened or whatever. I'm just saying it's preposterous to believe that something could come into being without a creator. The universe is not eternal. It's a self-defeating concept to say that something is self-created because, of course, if it's creating itself, was it there before it existed? Was it only there after it existed? If that's after it was created, if that's the case, what created it? See, the only thing that makes sense, truly, from a philosophical perspective, from a logical perspective, is that we were created by someone or something who is self-existent, something that is eternal, something that itself was not created or who was not created. And see, that's exactly what the God of the Bible, who he tells us he is. In fact, when he revealed himself to Moses through the burning bush, he told Moses to go back and to lead the Israelites out of slavery and bondage in Egypt. And Moses said, well, who am I supposed to tell them sent me? And God said, I am, which is it's an unbelievable thing to just think about that. His name means I am. He isn't a God that wasn't at some point and just is now. He is in a constant state of being. He is eternal. It means a lot of things, but it means he's eternal. He's the great I am. This is profound. This is beautiful. This is amazing. And so, but through that, people say, well, there's evidence. There's evidence of the Big Bang. And I would say there's no evidence of the Big Bang outside of God because there would be nothing here. And by the way, The Myth of Chance is a book I read by R.C. Sproul. I referenced the other day. It's a great book. It's an older book, but I encourage you, if you're interested in these things, to read that. But chance isn't an entity. Chance is not something that, we almost talk about chance as though it's this thing where that's working in particular favors. No, chance just means it's not a factor. It's not an entity. It's just a way of measuring things, whether they're likely or unlikely to happen or whatever. It's not some powerful force that's pushing. If it's a powerful force, then suddenly it looks a whole lot like God. Anyway, but they say, people have commented on the post online, well, there's evidence of the Big Bang. If we unearthed a big boat that met the dimensions of Noah's Ark in the Bible, what would you call that? What would you call that, my friends? Would you call that evidence? I certainly would. And is it evidence that would make it abundantly clear that the biblical narrative is absolutely factual and true? It's interesting. I'm going to look at this in a moment, my friends. I got to take a break here in a second. But I want to tell you, too, before I take that time out, that that, and we've learned this, or maybe we've known this, we've learned this over the course of time, but every dollar we spend is a vote for the kind of America that we want to live in. That's why we have launched Freedom Marketplace here at the Todd Huff Show. It's a free directory of businesses that align with your conservative principles and values. These businesses have made a promise. No support will they give for leftist candidates or leftist causes. And if they break that promise, they're out of the directory. Kicked to the curb, my friends. But we haven't had that yet. I don't expect it, but that's the rules. Them's the rules. So if you're tired of funding the woke agenda, the leftist anti-God agenda, visit freedommarketplace.net. It is free. It is easy. And friends, it's the right thing to do, I think. Check out and support businesses that are pushing in the same direction that you are. Liberty and business for all at freedommarketplace.net. Quick time out. Come back and talk about this Noah's Ark story on the other side of the break. Be back in just a minute. My friends, I like a guy named Dr. Frank Turek. I think his group's called Cross-Examined, I see him debate and teach on college campuses or answer questions from students and so forth. And I love his stuff. But he asks a question that I find interesting. He asks people who are skeptics or who are atheists or whatever, he'll say, if Christianity were true, would you be a Christian? And it's interesting to listen to the responses. Some people will say yes, These are people who are genuinely seeking answers and truth. You got people who say no, who say, I don't care if it's true or not. I don't want anything to do with the God of the Bible. That's people who say that as well. You got people who try to say that that's not a fair question and everything in between, but it's worth pondering. It's worth pondering. So for those who don't believe in the God or God of the Bible, if Christianity were true, would you believe? And here specifically with this story, if Noah's Ark is uncovered in the mountains of Ararat, would that change anything for you? So here we go. High in the mountains of Turkey, I'm reading from this article at thedailymail.com, sits a mysterious geological formation that some researchers believe could be the remains of Noah's Ark. According to the Bible, the massive vessel saved humanity and every kind of animal from annihilation during a catastrophic flood more than 4,300 years ago. Now a team of American researchers working at Durapinar Formation, I don't know if that's how you say that, near Mount Ararat, have uncovered evidence of angular structures and a void deep within the mountain. Andrew Jones, an independent researcher with Noah's Ark scans, used ground-penetrating radar to detect what appeared to be a 13-foot tunnel running through the center of the formation. The scans captured 3 layers below the earth, matching the biblical description of the boat having 3 decks. So they've got this ground radar, they're scanning the earth, and they found that there's a corridor, a tunnel, that runs through the center of the formation, whatever this is. Then they also found that it has 3 layers, which, if you read the biblical account in the book of Genesis, chapter 6, verse 16, well, chapter 6, it talks about the ark. Here's what it says in 6:16. Make a roof for the ark and finish it to a cubit above, and set the door of the ark in its side. Make it with lower, second, and third decks. The scan says it has 3 decks. Coincidence? I mean, listen, I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you what they're saying. This is not a new story. This is new information from a developing or ongoing story. Now, a new analysis from the team's GPR data claims to have found central and side corridors or hallways running through the boat. We're not expecting something that's fully preserved. What's left is the chemical imprint, pieces of wood in the ground, the shape of a hall, Jones told the Christian Broadcasting Network, CBN. So far, the scans have revealed angular structures as deep as 20 feet beneath the surface, features that could represent rooms below a deck-like platform. So, just located just 18 miles south of Mount Ararat, Turkey's highest point, this group has only been known to the modern world for less than a century. The formation. According to local reports, heavy rains and earthquakes in May 1948 washed away surrounding mud, revealing the mysterious formation. It was discovered then by a Kurdish shepherd. By the way, I find this interesting to point out. May of 1948. You know what happened in May of 1948? I told Oz this actually yesterday. May 14th, 1948, Israel became a nation. Now, I'm not saying that this is what it is, but what I am saying is that God often uses important dates and things like that to reveal things, if you read the resurrection of Jesus and the things that happened, right? The tearing of we talk about the crucifixion, which of course is what ultimately matters, but according to the biblical account, dead people rose from the grave. Earthquakes happened. The sky turned dark. The veil in the Holy of Holies in the temple, which was like 30 or 40 foot curtain, massive, thick curtain, tore in two, my friends. Dramatic things happened. But Israel was founded this very month, May 1948, when the mudslide basically revealed what we've can see, or the footprint of this thing that we can see beneath the surface. The Bible states that Noah's Ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat after a 150-day flood drowned the earth and every living creature not sheltered inside the wooden vessel. What's intriguing is that the formation sits near a mountain with a peak that some believe matches the ark's shape and dimensions. So, according, well, I don't have any more time. I'm out of time here. It's just interesting. I'm just sharing this. I found this in the news. Something's down there. Something's down there, and it fits. I mean, the dimensions seem to add up. The structure itself seems to at least cause us to pause and think. And my question, look, I don't know. It may be something else. Who knows? I'm not suggesting it isn't. I'm just saying, what if? What if it was? Would it change those minds that don't believe in God? Gotta go. SDG.